making time to be with us. It's really a pleasure to meet with you.
I want to talk about the DA's manifesto as the opening. The DA's manifesto talks about 6 million jobs over the next decade. And the built environment, infrastructure, engineering, construction, that sector has opportunities galore in 3 different facets. The first one is the development of new infrastructure, capital expenditure for new infrastructure. The second one is operating and maintaining that infrastructure, new infrastructure as well as old infrastructure. And then finally, stimulation to the economy. You build a road and the farmer can get his produce from the farm into the marketplace. The challenges that the government faces is that they lack technical skill and capacity to roll out those projects so that there is stimulation in the economy. What reforms will the DA bring to realize this potential?
The DA has a phrase wherever we govern, and it is this: infrastructure-led economic growth. We know that if we do not have good infrastructure, we cannot grow the economy, and that refers to the third point that you mentioned, that people are not going to invest in a country where services don't work, where you can't get your goods to market, where you can't switch on the lights, or you can't flush toilets, or where roads are really potholed and bad. So infrastructure-led economic growth has been our slogan wherever we've governed. And we started with it in the Western Cape, in Cape Town specifically, with massive investment in infrastructure, which has had a wonderful spin-off in economic growth and investment and a drop in unemployment in the province. So that's been very good. But to ensure that we have the capacity in the state to spend the money budgeted for infrastructure, we ensure that we employ the right people in the right places. We don't believe in cadre deployment. We have a transparent, accountable candidate selection process. It's a very diverse process. It results in a diverse public service, but it is a merit-based public service, which is the way we see things. And we don't believe that equity is the opposite of excellence. We believe they belong together and work very well together.
How does the DA intend to reprofessionalize the public sector? In your manifesto, you talk about reprofessionalizing the public sector. How will you deal with reprofessionalizing, attracting and retaining technical capacity in the government sector?
Well, we've done that wherever we govern. In Cape Town, we were able to advertise many posts after people had resigned because they were going to be investigated for corruption and various other things. And we were able to advertise many posts and bring in the right people for those positions. If they needed engineering qualifications, those are the people that got those posts. And I'm delighted to say that the pool of candidates is more and more diverse, which is exactly what we want to see. So we appoint the right people in the right positions. We have proper checks and balances. We expect people to do the job properly. We have performance assessments, and we implement those properly.
How will the DA deal with existing staff in the public sector? We know there's cadre deployment. We know there's inappropriately qualified individuals occupying positions of authority in government. How would you contend with the existing staff and the HR issues associated with that?
Where we come into government, we expect people who are being paid to do a job of work to do the job of work. That's why we have performance assessments that are very rigorously applied. And if people aren't able to do the job, we take them through the process of 3 particular assessments, 3 particular warnings, and then they have to move on. Because we cannot be the South African Railways in government. We cannot, in fact, carry all the passengers that some people want you to carry for political reasons. We do not believe in cadre deployment. We do not believe in hiring people for political reasons. We have to get a job done on a limited amount of money, and we have to hire people who can do the job.
The opportunity cost is extremely high, and the ripple effect is tremendous. What changes can we expect in terms of procurement from the DA should you have the opportunity?
The great risk of procurement in the public sector is that it is so open to corruption unless it is properly managed. So what you have is people in government inventing projects and then becoming involved in companies that can fulfill the invented requirement, and then you have officials and politicians benefiting from them hugely. And sometimes they put up a very flimsy smokescreen by getting family members or friends to bid for tenders that they then get and divide the spoils afterwards. And the massive challenge is to prevent corruption. That's why one can't do unsolicited bids. Therefore, one has to go through a competitive bidding process. And unfortunately, the competitive bidding process absorbs a lot of energy, time, and resources from the private sector who are bidding for those tenders and contracts. But I'd love to hear of another method by which we can prevent collusion and corruption. Even with that method, we had collusion and corruption in the construction industry around the tendering for the stadia for the World Cup. So we really have to be able to prevent collusion, promote competition, and ensure that we outlaw corruption and prevent it effectively. And so if anybody can come to me with a better system than the open tendering system to do that, I'd be very grateful to hear about it.
Fantastic. There's a movement that we've started called Civolution.
Mm-hmm.
And Civolution is about inspiring the engineers to break out of the current or the old mold of thinking, new paradigm, come up with new solutions, and to adapt the way they practice engineering to meet the needs of the new South Africa. So that's, I love what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
South Africa has roughly 80,000 engineering practitioners, technicians, technologists, and engineers. About 65% of that number are white engineers. Now, there is a sense in the country that the DA supports white professionals and that we would revert to encouraging white engineers back into the public sector and them getting favor. And by implication, this marginalizes the black professionals. What is the view of the DA in terms of transformation, not only in government, but also on the ground where the professionals actually function?
That view is totally bizarre, the one that you've just sketched out for me. To have a growing economy, we have a drastic need for many, many, many more professionals. And because we are committed to diversity, we're always on the lookout for diverse candidates for professional positions. That's precisely what we want. To be excellent, you have to be diverse. And you can't make diversity the opposite of excellence. You have to ensure that diversity is excellence. And therefore, we're always on the lookout for good, competent, qualified professionals who happen to be from different backgrounds other than white males, who can fill positions competently and well. And we're very successful with that search. So we provide many, many bursaries to black candidates to study engineering through our Masaki Sizwe program. It's called the Masaki Sizwe program, Let Us Build Our Nation program. And we're actively involved in building a whole new core of engineers from previously disadvantaged backgrounds, precisely because we want to diversify the professions.
Historically, if you look at our infrastructure around South Africa and compared to Africa, we are way ahead of the game. This is a direct result in South Africa of the fantastic universities that we have in terms of engineering graduates. But there's been challenges that our engineering universities have been facing. Some of the challenges are related to attracting academic staff, sourcing funding for world-class research, facilities like laboratories and research facilities at the universities. What can the engineering universities expect from the DA to assist alleviate some of these challenges should you have the opportunity?
Well, the DA knows that we cannot have economic growth and job creation without infrastructure-led economic growth, and we cannot have infrastructure-led economic growth without good engineers. So it's a complete cycle, and that starts with good school education that emphasizes mathematics and science, as well as the other subjects, of course, and that enables young people with skills in that direction to become engineers. And we are very, very committed to that. But of course, to do that, you've got to have good, competent lecturers and professors in the field out there who are willing to take on that incredibly important role. And so we would strongly support, and we do support, subventions of salaries in areas of scarce skills. I know that many universities already apply subventions to various categories in which they would not be able to otherwise get the skills, such as actuarial science, etc. And we believe that it's entirely appropriate, especially to look at supply and demand, and to make sure that the very, very best engineering brains are training the engineers of the future.
More than 40% of our engineers in this country are under the age of 36. What message does Helen Ziller of the DA have for these young engineers who are going to be at the forefront of infrastructure development over the next 15, 20 years?
Well, Africa really is the continent of the future, especially for engineers, because there's so much infrastructure that needs to be built and developed across this entire continent. And if governments start serving the people and stop being corrupt and dedicate 10% of national budgets to developing infrastructure, we will have the most incredible growth spurt in this continent over the next 50 years. And so I think engineering is probably the best profession to choose if you want a future in contributing to Africa's renaissance. And I would encourage all people who can and have the skills and ability to study engineering to do just that, because you're not only contributing to building physical infrastructure, but you're contributing to development of a continent in every single way. And Africa is, of course, the most exciting place to be in. But in order to be able to come to your full potential as an engineer, you need good government that spends money in the right places, that doesn't steal people's money, that ensures that the focus is on infrastructure-led economic growth. And dare I say it, the only party that will do that is the DA.
I think you've just won over the hearts of many engineers.
Thanks very much.